Let me ask you something honestly, Raiders. Are you still playing the game the same way you were at the beginning? And I don't mean have you quit. I just mean, are you still staying up too late? Are you still saying just one more raid at 1 AM? Are you still sinking those 6, 7, 8 hour sessions into it like you did at the beginning? Because if I'm being completely transparent, I'm not. And admitting that does feel strange, because a few months ago, Ark Raiders felt like lightning in a bottle for me. It was the perfect distraction, the perfect escape, and now the sessions have become shorter and more controlled, even more measured. So I started asking myself, is the honeymoon phase over? Is the game losing its grip? Or is this just what happens when an obsession turns into something more sustainable? But before we go further, I need to acknowledge something here. My last few videos have leaned into the emotional beauty of this game, things like the silence, the tension and the atmosphere of the game, and I still stand by all of that. But today isn't about romanticising Ark Raiders, today is about something a little more honest, more uncomfortable. What happens after the magic settles? Well, let's rewind back to December time. It was a holiday period, I had time off work, I had longer evenings and reduced responsibilities. So I was able to play 8-hour sessions without even thinking twice. Learning every sound cue, exploring every corner of the map, feeling progression constantly, new items, new gear, new blueprints, new discoveries at every corner. Every raid mattered and every extraction felt huge. That early phase was certainly powerful for a reason though. In player retention psychology, this is known as the novelty spike. When a game is new, your brain is flooded with unfamiliar stimuli, new mechanics, new systems and new mastery paths. Novelty activates the dopamine heavily, not because you're winning even, but because you're learning. And Ark Raiders does the early game learning beautifully. But here's the thing about novelty, it fades. It always fades. But not because the game changes, because you do. Now there's a concept in game design called the engagement lifecycle curve, and players typically move through stages of this. 1, discovery, 2, obsession, 3, optimization, and 4, stabilization or drop-off. During the obsession phase, the time feels invisible, and during optimization, the game becomes more analytical. And I think that's where I am now. I'm no longer discovering, I'm actually refining. My loadouts have become more specific, my routes are more familiar, and my survival rate is also consistent. Even my raider is effectively maxed at this point. And optimization, psychologically, produces less dopamine than the discovery phase. It becomes a question of competence, not novelty. It's still satisfying, but it's quieter. And this brings us to a bigger question then. What is the current long-term chase? When you've unlocked most of what you need, when resources aren't scarce, when you aren't scrambling to survive, what pulls you forward and leans us in? Well, in player motivation theory, specifically self-determination theory, there are 3 core drivers. There's competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Now, Ark Raiders nails competence early. You feel yourself improving. It nails the autonomy. You choose your routes, your risk, your extraction timing. But once the competence plateaus, you need a new mountain to climb. Expeditions are of course coming, and that's always promising, but in this current moment, the mountain feels smaller. And the shift might explain those shorter sessions. It's not disappointment here, just a reduced urgency. And here's where I need to be honest also. It's not just the game here. Life gets busier. Mental bandwidth is more limited than it is during a holiday period. And on top of that, when you start creating content like I have, it does change a lot. When you're just playing, you are immersed in a game, but when you're creating, you're analysing. Every raid becomes potential footage, every mechanic becomes a topic to discuss, or every system becomes something to dissect. And instead of asking, what do I feel? I start asking, what does this mean? What's the next video? What angle haven't I covered yet? And that analytical lens does slightly distance you from the pure escapism. And I think that's part of what I'm experiencing here. It's not burnout, not boredom, but just a shift in relationship. Burnout doesn't always look dramatic either. Sometimes it's subtle. You still enjoy the thing, but you just don't crave it. And yet here's the contradiction. I still log in daily, even when my radar is maxed, even when I don't need resources, even when I tell myself I'll only do one raid. Why? Well, because something still pulls me back. The atmosphere, the community, the game design, and the tension of extracting, the core loop is still compelling enough for me, which tells me this isn't disinterest, it's just a recalibration. And there's another retention concept worth mentioning here. Games that transition from high intensity engagement to habitual engagement often become more sustainable longer term. So instead of those 8-hour sessions, you get 1 to 2 hour rituals instead. And no more obsession, you get routine instead. And routine, while less explosive, is more durable. The honeymoon phase is emotionally loud. Stability, though, is emotionally quiet. And maybe what I'm feeling isn't a decline, maybe it's transition. So what can we take away from this? Well, the end of the honeymoon phase doesn't suggest failure. I think it's natural. Every game, every hobby, every relationship, the intensity fades, but depth replaces it. Even if sessions become shorter, it doesn't mean that the game has lost its magic. It might just mean that we've mastered the early systems, or we're waiting for new progression hooks, or real life responsibilities have shifted. The relationship to the game has to evolve, and the fact that I still log in daily, even without urgent progression pressure, tells me something powerful. The foundation of Arc Raiders is strong enough to survive beyond its novelty, and that matters more than the honeymoon ever did, because obsession burns brightly, but sustainability builds community. So now I genuinely want to know from you, are you feeling this too? Are your sessions shorter, or are you just waiting for the expedition now to reignite the early intensity? Do you think the game needs a stronger endgame chase mechanic, or is this simply the natural life cycle of a game now setting into its long-term rhythm? Please drop your experience in the comments, because I think a lot of us are maybe quietly transitioning, and I'm not alone on this, and talking about it matters. And if you appreciate those honest conversations, not just hype, not just criticism, but real reflections on how we're evolving with this game, then please consider subscribing. We're documenting this journey in real time together, the highs, the doubts, even the transitions, and when the expedition lands, then I'll be here for that too. So when I ask, is the honeymoon phase over? Maybe, but the story of Arc Raiders is still unfolding. And until then, I will see you topside.